The digital clock on the nightstand glowed 2:17 a.m., its red numbers burning into my retinas like an accusation. I hadn't slept properly in weeks, not since the night Emily first came home smelling like someone else's cologne. Now, sitting alone in our king-sized bed while she was supposedly at another emergency client meeting, I finally admitted what I'd been denying for months. My marriage was a corpse I'd been desperately trying to resuscitate. I remember meeting Emily at the university library 12 years ago. She'd been reaching for the same economics textbook, and our hands touched. Such a cliché it makes me sick now. But God, she was beautiful then. Still is, I suppose, though beauty feels like poison when it's been weaponized against you. We'd studied together that night, and every night after. I proposed at Chez Laurent, the French restaurant where we'd had our first real date. The ring cost 3 months of my teaching salary, but her tears of joy felt worth any price. Our honeymoon in Santorini remains crisp in my memory. The whitewashed buildings, the impossible blue of the Aegean, the ancient olive tree where we carved our initials like teenagers. Nathan plus Emily forever, surrounded by a heart. I'd actually believed in forever then. My fellow teachers at Lincoln High used to joke that I'd won the lottery with Emily. Brad would slap my back in the faculty lounge and say, "That wife of yours, man, you must have sold your soul for that deal." If only he knew the devil always collects. 6 months ago, Emily got promoted to senior account director at her marketing firm. The celebration dinner at home turned into champagne at the office. The champagne at the office turned into client dinners. The client dinners turned into conferences, late meetings, weekend strategy sessions. Her phone, which used to lay carelessly around our house like any other object, became a guarded treasure. She'd flip it face down during meals, take it to the bathroom, sleep with it under her pillow. The first night she didn't come home until 3 a.m., I'd been frantic. She slid into bed with practiced exhaustion and explained, "Server crash at the office. Had to manage the crisis." When she kissed me goodnight, her mouth tasted wrong, like Macallan whiskey, the expensive kind we never bought. Her hair smelled like cigarette smoke, though she'd quit 5 years ago. I told myself I was paranoid, that 15 years of teaching teenagers had made me see deception everywhere. But a teacher's instinct for lies is hard to shut off. You spend enough time watching kids fumble excuses for missing homework, and you develop a radar for bullshit. The way someone's eyes drift up and left when they're constructing a story. The unnecessary details that decorate a lie. The defensive anger when questioned. Emily was exhibiting all the tells I'd seen 1,000 times before, only now they were coming from the woman who'd promised to love me until death. Standing in our bedroom now, I stared at her side of the closet. The La Perla lingerie set I'd bought her for our anniversary. Gone. The black silk negligee from Valentine's Day. Missing. They'd reappear days later, freshly laundered, smelling like expensive detergent we didn't use. Her dress collection had evolved, too. The conservative professional wear had given way to shorter skirts, deeper necklines, fabrics that clung in ways that made my chest tight with recognition. She was dressing for someone, and it wasn't me. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Meeting running late. Don't wait up. Love you." Love. The word sat in my throat like broken glass. I knew, with the same certainty I knew the quadratic formula, that my wife was in another man's bed right now. The only question left was what I was going to do about it. Every problem has a solution if you work through the steps methodically. That's what I tell my algebra students. Define the variables. Set up the equation. Solve for X. My marriage had become a word problem. If a wife leaves for work at 8 a.m. and claims to return at 11 p.m., but her office parking garage shows her car leaving at 6 p.m., where does she spend those 5 missing hours? The decision to hire a private investigator felt like admitting defeat. For 2 days, I'd driven past the office of Sullivan Investigations, located above a bail bondsman on the seedy side of downtown. The neon sign flickered like my resolve. On the third day, I parked and climbed the narrow stairs that smelled like 40 years of cigarettes and broken dreams. Jack Sullivan looked exactly like Central Casting's idea of an ex-cop turned PI. Thick shoulders, tired eyes, coffee stains on his shirt. He didn't pretend this was anything other than what it was when I sat in the cracked leather chair across from his cluttered desk. He cut through my attempted casual small talk and asked, "How long have you suspected?" 6 months, I admitted, the words feeling like pulling teeth. Maybe longer if I'm honest. Describing Emily's patterns to this stranger felt like undressing in public. Her Tuesday and Thursday client dinners, her new gym membership at a place across town, far from her office, the weekend conference in Chicago that I'd later learned, through a casual comment from her colleague, had been canceled. Jack Sullivan took notes without judgment, his pen scratching across a yellow legal pad like he was writing my marriage's obituary. "I'll need 2 weeks," he said. "Maybe less if she's not careful. The careful ones take longer." She wasn't careful. The next 14 days, I became an Academy Award-worthy actor. I graded papers while Emily texted constantly beside me, her fingers flying across the screen with the urgency of new love. I cooked dinner while she called to cancel, another meeting running late. I made love to her on the rare nights she was home and willing, trying not to think about where else her body had been. My performance was flawless. The devoted, trusting husband, oblivious to the deception unfolding in real time. Jack Sullivan's updates came in like a slow-acting poison. Day 3, he reported, she met someone for lunch at Bistro Margot. Male, early 40s, expensive suit. Day 5, same man. They went to his apartment building on Riverside Drive, stayed 2 hours. Day 8, have photographs now? You should prepare yourself. The call came while I was in my car, grading tests in the school parking lot after staying late to help a struggling student. Jack Sullivan's voice was steady. "I have everything you need. Photographs, video, credit card records she's been hiding. The man's name is Derek Winters, investment banker at Goldman Sachs." The photos arrived on my phone in a secured folder. Emily laughing at lunch, her hand on Derek's chest in a gesture so intimate it made my stomach clench. Emily entering his apartment building at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday when she was supposedly in back-to-back meetings. Emily kissing him on the street corner, broad daylight, like I was already dead to her. The video was worse. 10 seconds of them entering a hotel together, his hand on the small of her back in a possessive touch I recognized from our own early days. I sat in my Honda Civic, practical, reliable, everything Derek's Mercedes wasn't, and felt something inside me calcify. Not break, but harden into something useful. Rage could be a tool if you knew how to wield it. Jack Sullivan called again. "She's heading to his place now, just left her office." The decision wasn't even conscious. My hands were already turning the key, my foot already on the gas. 20 minutes to Riverside Drive. 20 minutes to the end of everything. I'd spent 15 years teaching teenagers that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Tonight, Emily would learn that Newton's third law applies to marriages too. The drive to Derek Winters' apartment gave me 20 minutes to choose between being the man who loses everything with dignity or the one who ensures nobody wins. My knuckles went white against the steering wheel as violent fantasies played through my mind, the satisfying crunch of his nose under my fist, Emily's shocked face as I destroyed something precious to her. But violence was amateur hour. I'd spent years teaching kids that the smartest solution was rarely the loudest one. Riverside Drive was everything I'd expected. Manicured lawns, European cars, the kind of neighborhood where a teacher's salary was a rounding error. Derek's building had a doorman, but I'd taught his son 3 years ago. Tommy struggled with geometry until I'd spent my lunch breaks tutoring him. The doorman's face lit up with recognition. "Mr. Grant, what brings you here?" "Visiting a friend," I said, the lie smooth as water. "Derek Winters. He's expecting me." Tommy didn't question it. Good kids rarely question their favorite teachers. Penthouse B, elevators to your right. The ride up felt like ascending to judgment, though I wasn't sure who was about to be judged. The hallway was silent except for my footsteps on marble that cost more than my annual salary. At Derek's door, I could hear music inside. Jazz, something sultry and cliché. I knocked with the same rhythm I used to get my class's attention. 3 sharp raps. Derek answered wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than my best suit. His transformation from confusion to recognition to fear happened in 3 distinct beats, like watching someone solve an equation they wished didn't have an answer. "Nathan? How did you—" he started to say. I pushed past him without violence, just inevitability. He stumbled backward, and I walked through his apartment like I owned it, which in a way, I did. I owned this moment. The living room was staged like a seduction scene. Dim lights, wine breathing on the coffee table, my wife on the leather couch wearing the silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary. Emily's face was a masterpiece of emotional whiplash. Surprise melted into guilt. Guilt hardened into defiance. Defiance crumbled into desperate manipulation. She actually tried starting with, "It's not what it looks like," before stopping mid-sentence, probably realizing how insane that sounded when she was half naked in another man's apartment. She pivoted quickly. "It just happened. Nathan, I was going to tell you." "When?" My voice came out steady, professorial. "After the Thursday meetings? During the Chicago conference that was canceled? Or maybe after you finished him in the bed I paid for half of—" Derek tried to step forward. "Look, man, maybe we should all just—" "Shut up." I didn't even look at him. "You're irrelevant. You're just the latest variable in an equation that was always going to equal 0. I pulled out my phone, then the divorce papers my lawyer had rushed through that afternoon. Emily's face went pale as I set them on the coffee table next to the wine. "Barry Steinberg drew these up today," I said, referencing the best divorce attorney in the city. "You remember Barry? We had dinner with him and his wife last Christmas. You said he seemed ruthless. You were right." Emily's voice cracked as she pleaded, "Nathan, please, we can talk about this." "We are talking. I'm talking. You're listening. Like you should have been listening when you promised to forsake all others." I took out my phone, snapped a photo of them both. Derek tried to cover his face. Emily just stared. "Documentation for the divorce. Barry says infidelity helps with asset division." Emily's manipulation shifted to anger, right on schedule. "You can't just— This is my life too." Was your life. I kept my tone even, the same voice I used to explain why a student had failed. "Your parents know, by the way. I called them an hour ago. Your mother cried. Your father said he wasn't surprised. Apparently you'd done this before in college. Wish he'd mentioned that earlier." Emily's face crumbled. "You called my parents?" "And your boss. Anonymous tip about misuse of company resources. Those client dinners you've been expensing? The ones where Derek here was the only client? Fraud's a funny thing, Emily. Hard to prove, easy to suspect. Careers have ended on less—" Derek finally found his voice. "You're insane. You can't just—" "I can. I did. I'm done." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, Emily? The house locks have been changed. Your things are in boxes in the garage. Take them tonight or they go to Goodwill tomorrow." Her tears finally came then, but they looked rehearsed, like she'd practiced them in the mirror. "Nathan, I love you. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I want a wife who doesn't f*** investment bankers while I'm teaching teenagers about honest work." I headed for the door. "The car's in both our names. I'll handle the transfer tomorrow. You can keep it, but the loan's yours. 72 months at 6.9% interest. Derek can help with the math." The last thing I heard was Emily calling my name, her voice cracking with something that might have been genuine regret. but genuine regret after discovery isn't remorse. It's just disappointment at being caught. Emily arrived home at 11:47 p.m., exactly 3 hours and 12 minutes after I'd left her at Derek's penthouse. I knew because I was sitting in the dark living room, watching the security camera feed on my laptop. She tried her key 3 times before accepting it wouldn't work, then pounded on the door with both fists. She shouted from outside, "Nathan, open the door! This is my house too!" I let her knock for exactly 5 minutes, long enough for the neighbors to notice, before opening the door. She'd changed clothes, traded the silk robe for jeans and the Princeton sweatshirt she'd stolen from me years ago. Her makeup was ruined, mascara drawing black rivers down her cheeks. "Your belongings are in the garage," I said, blocking the doorway. "Everything's labeled. I even bubble-wrapped the china your grandmother left you." Emily pushed against my arm. "You can't just lock me out of my own home." "Our home, past tense, and legally I can, since you abandoned the marital residence to commit adultery. Barry's words, not mine." She tried to push past me. I didn't budge. "I want to talk. We need to talk." "Fine. Talk." The next hour was a masterclass in manipulation tactics. She cycled through every strategy in the playbook, and I cataloged them like a scientist observing predictable phenomena. First came the tears and apologies. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. It meant nothing." I responded by showing her the credit card statements Jack Sullivan had found, the nothing that meant lingerie from Agent Provocateur, weekend getaways to the Hamptons, a $3,000 watch for Derek's birthday. Then came anger and blame shifting. "You were never here, always grading papers, always at school events." I was lonely. I reminded her that I'd offered to cut back on extracurriculars, but she'd said we needed the extra income for her dream vacation to Bali, the one she'd apparently been planning to take with Derek, based on the email confirmations Jack Sullivan had discovered. Next was bargaining. "We can try counseling. I'll quit my job. We'll move somewhere new, start fresh." I pulled up the text messages Jack Sullivan had screenshot. 3 months of her telling Derek she was planning to leave me after bonus season, that she just needed to position things right first. Finally, desperation. "Remember our wedding? Remember Santorini? Remember when Dad had his heart attack and you stayed with me at the hospital for 3 days?" "I remember everything," I said. "I remember you promising to love and cherish. I remember you saying Derek was just a client. I remember last Tuesday when you said you were at a pitch meeting, but you were at his apartment. I have timestamps, Emily, receipts, photos, your location data from the Find My Phone app you forgot we shared." She collapsed onto the porch steps, and for a moment she looked like the girl I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, lost, beautiful in her imperfection. But that girl was a ghost, and I was done being haunted. "Your parents are expecting you," I said. "Your mother set up your old room." Emily looked up at me with hollow eyes. "You told them everything?" "Enough. They're disappointed but not surprised. Apparently this is a pattern." Her voice became smaller. "What about work? Did you really? HR will want to discuss your expense reports. I'd hire a lawyer." She stood, wobbly, and faced me with something like dignity. "I suppose you want the ring back? Keep it. Sell it. Give it to Derek. I don't care." Her final accusation came out sharp and bitter. "You're enjoying this. You're enjoying destroying me." "No," I said honestly. "I'm enjoying the clarity. For 6 months I've been drowning in doubt, thinking I was paranoid, jealous, insecure. Turns out I was just right." I went inside and returned with her car keys and the boxes I'd packed with surgical precision. Each one labeled clothes, toiletries, books, lies you told. That last one contained our wedding album, the love letters she'd written me in college, the renewal of vows we'd done at 5 years. She could decide what to do with those remnants. As she loaded boxes into her car, she asked quietly, What about Derek? Are you going to ruin his life too? What about him? Are you going to ruin his life too? He did that himself when he decided to f a married woman, though his wife might appreciate knowing. They have 3 kids, right? Twin boys and a girl? Emily's face went white. He's married? The laugh that escaped me was bitter as black coffee. You didn't know? Jesus, Emily. You blew up our marriage for a man who was playing you the same way you played me. She drove away at 12:58 a.m., taillights disappearing into a future we wouldn't share. I stood in the doorway of the house that now felt too big, too quiet, too full of ghosts. But for the first time in months, I could breathe without feeling like I was drowning. 6 months later, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the sunrise paint the river gold. The coffee in my hand was perfect. Dark roast, no sugar, no compromise. My new place was smaller than the house, but every inch was mine. No ghosts in these walls, no memories lurking in corners. The divorce was final. Emily hadn't contested anything, probably hoping compliance might leave a door cracked for reconciliation. That door was welded shut and buried under concrete. I'd heard through mutual friends that Derek had ended things after his wife found out. Apparently, the thrill of sneaking around didn't translate to actual relationship potential. Emily had moved back with her parents temporarily, then got an apartment on the other side of town. Her career at the marketing firm ended quietly with a resignation letter and a non-disclosure agreement. At school, my colleagues had stopped treating me like fragile glass. My students, with their supernatural ability to sense authenticity, had noticed something different. I'd become the teacher who told them the truth, not just about quadratic equations, but about life, about how people could disappoint you, about how sometimes the right answer to a problem was to stop trying to solve it and walk away. Last week, a student asked me, "Mr. Grant, why didn't you ever have kids?" "Because some things work out exactly as they should," I'd answered, and meant it. I'd started seeing someone, Sarah, who taught history at Jefferson High across town. She had her own divorce story, her own scars, her own appreciation for second chances that came without illusions. We didn't talk about forever or carve our names into trees. We just enjoyed what was real, what was present, what was honest. Last month, I'd returned to Santorini alone, found that ancient olive tree with our initials still visible in the bark. Nathan plus Emily forever. I'd run my fingers over the carving, feeling nothing but mild archaeological interest in this artifact of a former life. The tree had survived centuries before us, would survive centuries after. Our forever had lasted 12 years, which in the grand scheme of things was barely a season. I'd thought about carving something new, maybe scratching out the old marks. Instead, I'd taken a photo, then walked away without looking back. Let the tree keep its record of a love that once existed. Let other couples add their own promises to its bark. Some would last, most wouldn't. The tree would remain, indifferent to all of it. Standing on my balcony now, I thought about Emily sometimes, not with anger or longing, but with a strange gratitude. Her betrayal had been a gift wrapped in thorns. It freed me from a life built on beautiful lies, forced me to construct something genuine from the rubble. I was a better teacher, a better man, maybe even a better partner to Sarah because I'd learned the difference between what looked perfect and what actually was. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Dinner tonight?" My place. I promised not to claim any client emergencies. I smiled. We could joke about it now, the wreckage that had brought us together. I replied, "Only if you promise not to expense it." The sunrise finished its show, and I went inside to get ready for school. 28 teenagers were waiting to learn about solving for X. I'd teach them the formula, the steps, the logical progression from problem to solution. But maybe I'd also teach them that sometimes the most important thing to know about an equation is when to stop trying to balance it and start fresh with new variables entirely. That was the real lesson Emily had taught me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. Building something better from the ashes of what someone else burned down. My coffee was perfect. The sunrise was perfect. My imperfect life was finally perfectly mine. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.